I'm going to walk through the process of creating and applying a style tile. Now, our focus here is not on why, but just very briefly, in a couple words, it's responsive design. In the olden days, web designers used to create a mock-up of a page and present it to the client and say, this is what your website's going to look like. Today, a style has to be applied that will work in a phone, that will work on a TV, that will work in responsive in social media, and so on. So when you're designing a website, you start with presenting a style tile to your client. And I'm going to walk through how to do that, how to translate your style into CSS, and then how to apply that to an HTML page. Our focus, though, is on creating the style tile itself and then integrating that into a web design. So we actually won't be going completely sequentially here, but we're basically going to follow this outline with some detours. We're going to download a template for a style tile, and I'll show you how to do that. We'll open it in any program. You can open it in any program that supports a PSD Photoshop file. I'm going to be using Adobe XD. Adobe XD is free, so that makes it easier for you to follow along and try this, and it also works very well. We're going to generate a color scheme in Adobe Color, choose a font or two from Google Fonts, come up with an icon, supply some adjectives that you see are a requisite part of the style tile in the lower right. Clean up the style for presenting it to a client, and then along the way we will be translating our style into CSS and applying that to a page. With the objective that we will come out of this with a style tile that we can present to a client and be prepared to translate that into a web page as needed. So let's start out. I'll jump into my browser, and the first stop is not there. That's kind of the last stop. So I don't have it open. That will give me the opportunity to search for style tile template. No, tile template. And while I'm at it, we don't need my bookmark bar. And I'm going to look for styletile.es. This is the Magna Carta or whatever for style tiles. I encourage you to read the documentation. If you're taking one of my classes, consider it an assignment. This is really a very valuable resource on style tiles, what they're used for, why they're used for, why they're used, and also provides you with the downloadable template. So I'm going to compress a couple steps here. I downloaded that template, I unzipped it, I opened it up in a folder on my website, and now I'm going to open that file in an editor. So style tile. I'm going to unzip the style tile one last time because who knows whether or not I've corrupted it by now. While I was waiting for you guys, I was doing a little experimenting. So I'm going to open this again. I could use Photoshop if I was more comfortable with that, or Illustrator, but I'm going to use XD. Works just fine. And here it is. So my next step is going to start coming up with a color scheme, and I reviewed color scheming in other videos and earlier classes, but let's just go ahead and walk through that very quickly. So here I am in, do I still have it open? Yep, Adobe Color. And I've generated a color scheme for myself, and just to kind of keep things straight, I've got the colors shuffled. This is just something I do in my head, and it's easy for me to keep track of. This is my body background color. This is my main text color. This is, the color that I will be using for headings. This will be my link color and my visited link color. So that's just the way I always organize my colors so that I can keep them straight. And Adobe Color is giving me hexadecimal values for all these things. So I'm going to grab these hexadecimal values one by one and toggle back and forth into XD. Here I've selected the first color swatch of 5 because of course we have 5 colors in a web color scheme, and one down. And if I had a really powerful team of video editors, I'd probably do this a little faster and skip something, but I'm just going to let you watch me do this in real time. And my third color. That didn't take. Oh, I did it on the border instead of the fill. Okay, let me redo this one. That one didn't seem to take either. Maybe it did. Nope, it didn't. Okay, 3 down, 2 to go. And the last one. So I'm going to keep this color scheme window open for my reference if I need it. But I'm on my way to giving my client a sense of what their vibe, what their image will be. The next thing I'm going to do is, just before I forget, I'm going to enter the project name here, Style Tile Project. And well, before I forget, I'm going to clean up some of the content that I got from the nice folks at Style Tile. I could leave this in, but that's not required. So my Style Tile is already a little bit coming together. Next stop will be fonts. So I'm going to head over to Google Fonts. And while I was waiting for you guys, I picked out Lotto, and I'm going to just select the regular 400 height, and I've got that all set up, and I've got the code now selected, and I've gone through how to choose Google Fonts in other videos and in class, so we're going to do just kind of a quick stop here. Next, I'm going to go look for, now I'm not going to paste those fonts in because we've got a little bit of a technical issue here. Just because I selected a font in Google Fonts doesn't mean that that font, Lotto, is available in XD. So I've got another solution for that. We'll come back to it. Let's do a quick stop on the logo next. And I'm not a designer, so I went into Wikipedia Commons, where there are files that are available, and I made sure that I searched only for one that was available, only one that was available, you know, they could be reused for free with no attribution necessary. So this is the URL for that image, and I'm going to copy that URL into my clipboard for now. And oh, before I do that, I'm going to I could copy the image. I think it might be just as easy to, yeah, I think I'll save that image. I'm keeping all my files together in the class folder on my desktop. And I'll go back to XD and replace their logo with the image that I just got. And it's a transparent ping, so that's kind of cool. I can use that there. So a conception of what this is all going to look like. In fact, I might even just kind of, to make this a little bit more effective, I might take this line and drop it down a little bit, just to give the client a little bit of a feel for the fact that we're going to have a transparent image here. I can make this a little smaller. And then maybe I'll make this background just to give the client a little bit more of a feel for what this is all going to look like. I'm gonna select this image, and maybe for the text, I'll go get what will be the highlight color. And for here, I might go get the background color. So again, I'm starting to give the client a little bit of a feel for what their vibe will look like, whether or not someone sees it in social media, sees it on a smartphone, sees it on a TV, or yes, sees it in a laptop or desktop. Okay, so we've got to start here. We will come back to textures, although I think I might take a stab at the button just for now, because we could do that using our highlight color as well, maybe, or use our dark color and move that to the back. Oh, I lost my text. Okay, well, didn't mean to, but let me zoom in here a little bit. I know this is turning into kind of a survey of XD, and XD isn't really objects and group. Okay, isn't really what we're here to learn, but let me just. XD is pretty similar to Illustrator, so if you're used to that. I might just draw a button, since this is turning into being a little bit of a hassle. And now I'll go get one of my featured colors. Actually, I think for this, go get the link background color, and then I'll just do a button. And for that, maybe select the body color, the background here. Okay, why don't we make this a little less major part of the whole thing. Okay, so again, the picture's starting to come together. Basically, what's missing now is our typography. Maybe I'll go ahead and do the adjectives. Probably should have thought about these in advance, but we'll come up with a few. If you come up with anything, shout it out. Bright, sunny, old, clean. Maybe upbeat and fun. Okay, so this is the image that I'm putting together for the client. Yeah, I think we're ready for, we kind of got our icon in place. It's a placeholder icon, but you get the concept. Got the adjectives, the textures, and the fonts we're going to come back to. So let's do fonts next. Now, we're going to have to take a detour and set up our web page so that we can actually display those fonts. And I'm going to go into my code editor here, and I have a very basic website with body tag and no styling right now, and a heading to a paragraph. I think I got the same icon here. I worked ahead a little on this. So let's see how this looks in a browser. We'll do this in Firefox just so that we're not tying up Chrome too much. Okay, so here's our basic page. And while we're doing the style tile, we're going to be kind of workshopping it on the page. So we've got our colors. We're going to pick out a font, and then we're going to put that all together in the CSS, and then we're going to return to the style tile and finish it off. So next stop, I'm going to drop by our friends at W3 Schools. Do I have their window open? Nope, but I can drop by there now. Oops, missed a period there, but they'll help. And I love the fact that when you get right to their homepage, there's a basic HTML template if you need one to get started. And if you want a basic CSS template to get started, you can just enter CSS. And yeah, they have kind of an odd search thing here, but this will take us to the basic CSS that we want. And what we want is how to apply CSS. So I wonder if that's here. Okay, this is what I'm looking for, external CSS. Now, there's plenty of great external CSS tutorials on the web, and I will refer you to them for more detail. But this is enough to get us started. This is what we need to link to an external style sheet. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to drop it into my CSS in the head element. And I'm just going to change the name of the file a little bit to style. My style sounds kind of like I'm just learning something from W3 Schools. So, of course I am, but I don't want to come across that way. So that covers that link, and then for a basic CSS style sheet syntax, let me find that. Well, this is embedded CSS, so I think I'm just going to go back to W3 Schools and share my exploring process. I want a CSS Starter Template. And these are way more than I need, so let me look for something a little more basic. This is it. CSS tutorial at W3 Schools. You could have found it faster than me, but I brought you along on my journey. So here's an example of CSS that could be put into an external style sheet that has basic elements, a body tag, a heading 1 tag, and a paragraph tag. So I'm going to grab these and I'm going to create a new CSS file. Now, I had gotten kind of a start on this, so I'm going to get rid of my start and take it from here. Get rid of this too. We'll get there. So here's a basic CSS style sheet. There's a light blue background, a white color for heading 1, and just a default color for a paragraph tag. And I'm going to save that. Now, just to review, here's my HTML file that links to style.css. Here's style.css. I've got them both saved in the same folder, so hopefully nothing will go wrong with the link. And then let me just jump back into Firefox and see whether or not that style took. It did take, so now I know that I've got my style sheet properly, my external style sheet properly connected with my CSS, and all I have to do is customize the CSS. So let me go back to that CSS file now and start implementing my own styling, as well as adding another style for subheadings that's not included here. So by typing H2, H3, I've defined a style that will apply to either a heading 2 or a heading 3. Now let me go back and check in with my color scheme. I could get it straight out of XD, or I believe I kept my color wheel open. I did. So here's my body tag background color. And let me just, because I'm a little paranoid, let me just check and see that these things are taking as I go. Good. That one took, and then I have a background color, which will be my font color, and let me jump and get that. Paste that in to my CSS. Okay, so that took, it's pretty close to black, so it wasn't that obvious, but now let me go get my top heading color. This is regular font. Okay, so this is my heading. I'm going to lose the centered text align while I'm at it. Okay, so my heading color kicked in. I'm going to do a little bit of work with the body tag here, just to have a basic. I'm going to do a width, or actually a maximum width of 800 pixels. I'm going to center that with margin auto. I'm going to do a little line height because I always do at least 1.4. I think for this client I'm going to want to demonstrate it at 1.6. So let me just check in and see if that stuff took, and it did. I don't want this Verdana font, but I'll deal with that later. So I think I've got, oh, my links. Okay, by the way, I'll clean up a little my extra spacing here. Just housekeeping, doesn't really affect anything. For a link, I'm going to get my link color. Heading. Oh, this is going to be my subhead. Let me get that one next. So for headings 2 and 3, I'm going to have that color. See if that takes. It did. And now link color. So back to my color scheme. Background, main font, heading font, secondary heading font, link color. So I'm going to grab that and the color. Also, I'm going to turn off underlining, except I'm going to turn underlining back on for hovered links. Oops, a color. Did I save this? Well, the link text didn't change color. Oh, what do I have that colon there for? Guys should have caught that. Okay, so here's our link text, here's our hovered link. All right, everything's kind of coming together now. The last piece of the puzzle before we complete the style tile is to go get our Google font. So again, I'm going to shortcut that process just a little bit because you guys have been through some of this before in terms of selecting, and there's a lot of resources for selecting a Google font. I'm into Lotto these days. I selected Lotto, not Lotto like you buy a Lotto card, but L-A-T-O. Very clean font, works in print, works on the web. It's nice. Now, in the embedding option, I'm going to choose import because that allows me to bring this into my CSS file and apply it. I don't have to, if I do link, I got to put this on every page in my website. If I do import, I can grab this and put it in a CSS file, and then it will apply throughout. So I'm going to put that at the very beginning of my CSS file. And then I'm going to grab the font rule and apply that to my body tag so that it applies to all the fonts on the page. And let's see how things are coming together. So there's my font applied, there are my colors applied, there's a logo applied, it's a placeholder, but I've got a basic, so I'm workshopping how this is all going to look. Then I'm going to bring it back into the style tile. So because XD doesn't have all these Google fonts installed, I'm going to just grab them with screen grabs. So I'm going to show clients what a top level heading looks like this. Size it a little bit proportional. And then I'm going to, I could have done a little cleaner screen grab than that, but you'll do better than I did. Let's go back to our page here. No, not my favorite bands. Hello. Or I don't even know those bands. Style tile, thank you. Second level heading, so I'll grab that, maybe be a little more careful about how I grab this. And then I'm going to identify that the font name here is, I got the subhead covered. And finally, okay, I'll get a paragraph of ipsum lorem that's actually in my I'll do the text link on my own. So stop with the, hey Firefox, stop with the login screen, please. Oh, back in Firefox. Let me get a link text here. Pop that in. Make that much smaller. Let's get some alignment going here. Make that a little bit smaller. Okay, and then let me just go get a chunk of text. Whoa, that was pretty big. Where did it end up here? So I could do a nicer job of kind of spacing these things out. Maybe I even put the font type here. You're going to have to do some tweaking with this. In fact, if you read the instructions, they suggest that you pay attention to being creative and not just copying their thing. One thing you might do to make this even a little bit more inviting is to maybe grab some of the theme colors and use them. Oh, that doesn't work for bold. Close enough. So, I'd want to tweak this, but I'm not going to. The last piece of the puzzle that I want to put together on this style tile, and by the way, you may have noticed I'm building a prototype of the page at the same time that I'm building the style tile. Textures are just kind of a way to give a client or stakeholders a picture of kind of what it'll be like for people to see the site. So in Firefox, I'm going to do the Tools, Web Developer, Responsive Design mode. I'm going to put this into I'm going to put this into a mobile viewport because I think that might be an effective way of kind of giving clients a little bit of a feel for what this will all look like. So my textures, let me just paste this off stage for a moment here so I can kind of experiment with it. Get this and a couple other kind of looks to get a feel for how things might look. I didn't like that. I'm gonna get a redo on this one. And then maybe I can select these all and make them the same width. And it's a little bit strange to have my textures be different heights, but I'd probably tweak that if I could. I can rearrange some things here. And since I lost my textures header, I'll recreate that. And when a client looks at that, they'll get, this is kind of text heavy, but it'll give a client a sense of how their style tile project will look. So here's the style tile, and it's ready to submit, and then I can give clients a picture of what it looks like in a web page. And they can say, I don't like it, or I love it, or change this, or change that. But we've got a basic style tile. And just to complete the whole process, I just want to identify, I've got three files that matter here. The XD file needs to get exported into a form that I can share with a client. So I'm going to rename this artboard style tile, and I'm going to export it. Keep everything in my class folder, of course. I could do it as a ping. That's a good option. So I'll export it as a ping. And now I have ready to turn over to a client my style tile ping, my CSS, and my HTML. And just to review what those, actually let me just open up the ping here so we can see how this is. Always test, right? See how this is going to look for a client. So, all right, yeah, Adobe's trying to sell me something, and I got a dark background here because I did an invisible background with a ping. I'll have to think about whether or not I really want to do that. Good thing I previewed. Actually, just let's get real world here. I'm going to do this as a JPEG instead. I don't need to save it. Export. Yeah, this time I'm going to do it as a JPEG. And save it from I think that's going to be a better way to. It was good to know that we could have done it as a, with a transparent background, but this is a little more what I want the client to see. So here it is. I can present it to a client. I can say this gives you a basic feel for what this will look like in any environment. Again, I would do some touch up if I had a little more time, but the clock is running. So we've got that covered. We've got the HTML file that we can show off to a client. Okay, here's pretty much what it's going to look like in a web page, and what do you think? And I can make adjustments if you need them. So that's everything you need to put together a style tile and translate that into an external CSS file, link it to an HTML file, and then have a prototype of the HTML file.